Welcome, friends. It's very good to see so many of you here today. I am Alan Green. I'm the Church of England Rector of St John on Bethnal Green, and I'm also, as you've heard, the chair of what is now Tower Hamlets No Place for Hate Forum. I've been involved in that for the past decade. And when I first joined it, it was the Tower Hamlets Race Hate Interagency Forum. It was formed as a result of the Stephen Lawrence inquiry to ensure that there was joined up work between statutory and voluntary agencies in combating race crime in the borough. The name has changed quite a bit since then, but that's not simply cosmetics. It has been because the understanding of hate crime has changed since that time. And so it began to cross other borders and involve other forms of hate crime until now, in the last few years, it has become the Tower Hamlets No Place for Hate Forum. And that has been a very important change because it is very easy to keep the different strands of diversity separate from one another. It's much easier to deal with those different strands individually. It is much more complicated to see our work in a holistic way and to join it up, because that brings many problems with it. As you know, in the history of work and equalities field has always been that unfortunate side of competitiveness about whose victimhood is worst. And we've really had to work to get away from that and recognise instead that we are all human beings, and it is wrong for any of us to be victimised because of part of who we are, whatever that might be. And so we have tried to bring those together. And this conference is a result of that work. And I'm very pleased that working with Rainbow Hamlets, we have been able to address issues such as this. The point of today is not to present the solution to the issues around sexuality and faith communities. We know that we're at the beginning of an open discussion, and it's a difficult discussion because there are so many views involved. But hopefully this conference this afternoon will give us an opportunity to respect one another's humanity, respect one another's uniqueness, and begin not only to explain ourselves, but also to listen to one another, that we can begin to grow in our understanding, both about sexuality, both about identity, but also about religious faith as well. My background is in the Church of England. I grew up in Brighton and was a member of church since my earliest years. I was thrown out of Sunday school for misbehaviour, and I've really never looked back since there. I was fascinated by religion, by Christianity in particular, because for me it enabled me to take a step back into the past, not in the sense of romantic novels, but in the sense of something that claimed truth and reality. And I was fascinated by that combination of the past and of the present, of the eternal and of the transient. I was never much of a traditionalist, I have to say. I rather liked traditional worship. I liked all the fun of people dressing up and having candles and waving incense. But I was never part of a conservative church. For me, issues of gender and sexuality seem very straightforward. And I've had many arguments with fellow Christians about our stance. And in some ways, I guess I've probably moved away from that position, in that I still, personally myself, think that there is no issue between my understanding of Christianity and a respect and engagement with LGBT people, as members of churches or as non-believers. But what has changed for me is that I think I've gained more understanding of those who have a traditional belief, both within the church and in other faiths. And it is that I'm really interested to try to work out further. For me, religion plays a very important part in this world, not only of connecting us to the divine, but also of enabling us to speak out a different line, that religion enables us not to fall into line with the society in which we live, but to speak out according to principles that are found beyond that society. So we don't just jump on present bandwagons. And at times, we can see where that has been really very effective in the cause of freedom and justice, where we can see that those who, because of their religious beliefs, have not joined in the common line of humanity. The confessing churches in Germany during Nazism, one example amongst many. But in other things, where people of faith have spoken out and stood out, are not so memorable. But I do think that ability not just to fit in society is an important one. The issue is, how do we relate to one another then, it seems to me. And for my understanding, there are Christians, there are Muslims, there are many different faiths who will take from their traditions a sense of what constitutes their own discipline for today. And I think that as long as that is something that they practice within their community, something that they live with dignity and with respect, then that's fine. The problem becomes when those precepts are laid on other people as well. And when the issue we're dealing with today, when a personal discipline turns into a hatred for someone else, a denial of someone else's humanity, then I think a line has been crossed that needs to be spoken out against and stood out against. I think we have got into a situation now where we have allied homophobia with a traditional understanding of a religious faith too easily. It is, I believe, possible to respect a traditional line within a religious faith and not be homophobic. That, it seems to me, is a difficult picking apart, both for people within faiths and for those outside of faiths. And I hope that may be difficult for some people here to understand or to listen to from me, but I hope that's something that we can begin to talk about today. I do not stand here and say that because I believe that this is now the line that we all must take. This day is not about any views to be put in that way. It is rather to have a dialogue about where we are now in our faith communities and within our lives as individuals and part of groups such as Rainbow Hamlets here in Tower Hamlets. But I hope very much that throughout today we will most particularly show respect for one another, that we will listen to one another, and that in that we will be able to move forwards in a better understanding of the uniqueness of each and every one of us. Thank you.